with your mother. Hello, everybody. My name is. I can't do it.
Today we're talking about that hubcap stealing, cake eating, masked menace, Spider-Man.
And it's not me.
That's right, tonight, guys.
Yes.
We're talking about that fiend, that horrible character. Well, he's horrible now. Thanks, Ed Wells. Thank you very much for ruining my childhood hero. Yeah, we're talking about Spider-Man, and we're talking about two awesome issues. And not only that, we're talking about the first appearance of a character, too, as well, who deserves more respect than Marvel gives her. That's right, we're talking about Amazing Spider-Man number 248, the kid who collects Spider-Man. And then after it, also we're talking about his annual number 16, first appearance of Monica Rambeau.
I think we should lead with the annual because we might need our crying towels after we do 248. So.
That's what I was saying in the last show. It's like, bring your handkerchief.
Yeah, he's like, then we get to the fun one, 248 or annual 16. I was like, really? Wait, this went from like dark there. It's like,
dude, the 248 is sad.
You know what's awesome about that is that it's the same writer wrote both stories. It shows how versatile this guy is. Also, we're talking about Roger Stern, who wrote a lot of the Superman books in the 80s from Post Crisis, and he also wrote another story similar to the kid who collects Spider-Man. It was a story about Alice, and I think it was an Avengers Superman, and it's just as heartwarming and just a tearjerker, and just like emotional and just sentimental story as the kid who collects Spider-Man. And I guess he is just, like I said, that is, you can get me to tears over something, and it's not because you've ruined my character. Like
he wrote enough Spider-Man to fill an omnibus, which is available. I'm not sure if it's in print, but there one exists. And my personal favorite work of his was his run in the Avengers. Because he wrote it for about 60-something issues, starting in the 220s into the 280s, and it never did the team feel more human, because he really did play up the heroes in their everyday lives also. And it wasn't always populated with the big three. In fact, I don't know that the big three were rarely all together in that run. And you highly recommend it. That's actually that he was writing Avengers at the same time he was writing that Spider-Man annual. After that, he brought Captain Marvel over into the Avengers with issue 227.
Yeah, right. I just pulled that up. Yeah, 227 is his first one with Monica Rambeau right there on the cover. And then he goes all the way through 288.
Was he writing the crossovers with Spider-Man joining the Avengers?
Yes.
That was
the first. No, that wasn't Korvac. The first one he did was the 236 and 237, where Spider-Man wants to join the team because at the time they were paying $1,000 a month. And he wanted it. He wanted to help out Aunt May.
But where is he going to put all the money? He has no pockets.
Well, and he was told at first he'd have to be a probationary member, because them being a team and he being a loner, when he tried to help, he screwed things up. But it ends up, his science acumen ends up saving the day in the story. And then Cap, is now in favor of Spider-Man being an Avenger in training, contacts the government, and the government just blows a gasket and says, not a chance.
We've listened to Jameson for too long.
And he makes a joke. He goes, they'll let this alien guy in, but not me. And he goes, heck with it. It was a bad idea anyway. And it's a great two-part story.
Very cool.
I don't have access to the actual book itself, because these books are probably worth more money than I own.
Oh, first appearance of Monica Rambeau is probably
I can't.
a pretty penny.
Yeah.
It's 3 figures in
Wow.
real good shape. I mean, you can get a good, very good to find for 50 and under, but it's unfortunately it is 40 years old now.
Mm-hmm.
But there aren't that many bad copies out there still, so you're gonna pay for it.
Yeah.
So I don't like the pirate, so I actually have the collection. I bought this legitimately a long time ago. It says all of them through 2005.
Nice.
Actually 2006. So over 560 books in here, and they're on PDF. Acrobat Reader stuff.
Is it all just Amazing Spider-Man, or do they have Peter Parker Spectacular in there?
There are some Peter Parkers in here as well because they do some crossovers.
Okay.
Well, let me recommend to you.
He's got to pull one out of his magic couch.
Absolute Vision.
Oh, I want that one.
Yeah. This has
that's cool. That's a cool cover.
This has Avengers 231 to 241, Annuals 11 and 12, Spider-Man Annual 16, Fantastic Four 256, and Doctor Strange 60, which was part of the Doctor Strange story. It was at the time the last vampire story, and Captain Marvel and Scarlet Witch help him for an issue.
I do like this says in here. It's like you do have printable comic books.
Nice.
Very cool.
Who wants to buy one?
And this is all Stern, by the way. So all the Avengers stories in here.
Also, anybody looking to get this?
Cool.
This is 3 digits too.
Oh, is it really?
It's
I bet. Yeah, with all the issues in there. Yeah,
it's over $200. Last I checked.
Wow.
Well, except the annuals. My apologies.
This is all the annuals. Yeah.
That is a Jim DeMatteis the issue annual 11. I don't know who did 12, but all the regular Avengers stories are.
Also, eBay also for a while. I know I've seen it on there. I also have the 40th anniversary collection, and it all like 11 CD-ROMs of all this Amazing Spider-Man stuff too. So this was a back because I'm like, you know what? I don't have the newer ones. This is like when I bought this in 2005, 2006. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna get this, so I have the rest going up to it because I think this is right before the Straczynski run. I know when Straczynski took over, and
he took over. Oh goodness, early 2000s.
Yeah, so I'm not sure because I think this is right before we get to what's leading up to Civil War and stuff.
Okay.
Civil War is 2007, right?
6.
6.
Yeah. So maybe it's right up there. It's been a while since I've looked at this. It's been in storage for about 20 years.
Dang.
I played. It was like my 3rd time I pulled it out, just to show it off. I mean, I've never really gone and looked at it before and stuff to see what it's actually going up to. But I guess 560 complete issues. So I mean, hopefully it's 560 Amazing Spider-Man because I think Back in Black was led into Civil War or was right around Civil War. Was Straczynski running on that? So so it's nice to be able to chance to revisit these. And this is one CD I do not borrow out to anybody. Sister's kids looked at it and was like, said no. That's probably like, you imagine how if you own every single issue of Spider-Man, Amazing Spider-Man, and have it like in mint condition. That's what I feel worth.
Okay, well, all right, they weren't mint, but I did.
But even know, you imagine. Well, you probably know what your collection is if you sold them. You probably know how much they're all worth together.
Oh, well, let's put it this way. I don't think about how much. If I had them now and sold them, I could retire, even in the condition they were in.
You could retire twice.
But but that's why, because they've just the last couple of years just so ridiculously inflated.
Mm-hmm. So anyway, we'll get to the books. We'll start with annual number 16, first appearance of Rambo. Rambo or Rambo? I always get
Rambo.
Okay.
EAU is the O sound. We learned that very early in Louisiana.
And Zach, I hope you appreciate that we picked a story in your backyard.
And you know what? I was gonna say I was reading through it, and there's 2 panels where they show New Orleans. They show the old French Quarter, and then they show the riverfront with all the businesses. I was like, those 2 panels do Louisiana more justice than almost any time you see it represented in movies or TV shows. I appreciated that. So good on you for that, Marvel. Yeah, no, I really like this issue actually. The one thing I kept asking myself is, how is this a Spider-Man book? Because it spends of course, I understand Spider-Man does play a role in the story, but it's more of a Monica Rambeau introduction story.
Well, back in the day, television shows, when they were planning a spinoff, they would house the spinoff with a better known show, and
right.
like the characters would. The new characters would take center stage, and the more recognizable ones would be in the backdrop to help get them over, wrestling term.
Yeah.
And that's basically what they did in this annual.
Gotcha. Yeah, that makes sense.
That was in the Rookie. They had that. They're going to have another Rookie with a woman. She took 2-part story. Took the main role.
Basically took the main role over from Nathan Fillion.
Although I wish she'd stay on the show because she works well with Nathan Fillion.
Yeah, they have a good chemistry. But yeah, no, I really like this story. So I was reading through this. I guess at the time Peter Parker probably was not dating Mary Jane, or he wasn't dating anybody at the time. I guess.
I think that's even. I think he was dating Black Cat. Off and on.
Gotcha. Because of course it starts out, Peter Parker's waiting at the bus station or train station, wherever, and he sees Monica Rambeau walking by, and he's like, "Hey, that's a pretty lady. I'm gonna follow her for a little bit, like a stalker." And she walks past an alleyway. There's a couple of thugs, and Spider-Man wants to change into his costume to defend her, but then he finds out that she can, pretty much take care of them herself.
Well, it's funny.
She zaps him into a wall because he comes up behind her. Yeah.
Not in a wall. He goes right into the pile of garbage.
Oh, into the garbage.
In the alleyway. And he's just like, what the heck? And then he sees like, did I see a woman just change into being a bright light and energy?
Right.
And he's like, face it, he's like, you've talked to aliens, you've talked to this stuff. It's like, obviously, I'm not hallucinating.
I'm not crazy. I know I'm not. So, but yeah, and then Monica Rambeau, she turns into a beam of light, which is what this Captain Marvel did a lot. She had a lot of light-based powers. And Spider-Man, from there we see Monica Rambeau. She goes to the top of the Empire State Building, and then you kind of get the little back. Then it goes into the origin story. She's thinking about how New York is different from New Orleans, and then you kind of get her backstory. It goes into that, how she was looked over for a promotion at her job. Then she finds this guy who was a friend of her. Was it her grandfather or her father? That was in a war. I think it was her grandfather. It's a professor guy.
Yeah.
And yeah, the two of them, they're going out to investigate this oil rig in the Gulf of Mexico, which again, Louisiana. We got a lot of oil rigs.
This is very important. What's the name of the company?
Roxxon.
Yes.
Roxxon Energy. At every turn where there's an evil oil company, it's Roxxon in Marvel. So yeah, it goes into her backstory, explains how she got her powers. And then we cut back to present day, and Monica Rambeau, she's going to the Baxter Building because she's looking to find Reed Richards because she's got this condition. What is it? She's about to blow up or something. She's got all this energy, I guess, building up within her.
We can't gloss over what she did to get onto the ship. Now,
hey, I'm lost on this boat in a bikini.
Yeah, a couple things that you would never see in a comic today.
Yes,
or the movie adaptation for that matter.
The promotion,
2 things you never see in comics today.
The promotion she didn't get. That guy's white.
Yeah.
And it's as much to do with her being black as a woman.
Yep.
None of that came into play in this. And the way she gets on the boat, not a chance in hell that would be used today.
Nope.
And both, like I said, I loved both of those scenes because the first one was, when I read that the first time, I read it again, I go, that's just, they're people. I mean, I said, they could have just as easily been, white or yellow or green or purple. They were just people, and the way I love that. Later on, you found out that Monica had doting parents, even though she was an adult,
Mm-hmm.
that supported her being a superheroine. I mean, it's just,
Yeah.
stuff you never
like
see
the
in
origin.
an
shows.
identity politics obsessed industry now.
I like the origin when she got energy and all she's transported on the dock. She know where she went in there and she was like, it's some like warehouse and they had all these clothes there and she's like, well,
Oh,
my clothing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
leftover Mardi
it's
Gras
like a
stuff.
storage.
Yeah.
It's a storage of leftover Mardi Gras clothes. It's like that tracks. That makes sense. As somebody that's in Louisiana, it's like, yeah, you could put together a superhero
Well,
costume.
the other little thing we glossed over is when Spider went to go help her in the alleyway.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, she puts on the costume, like, oh, I don't really know how I feel wearing this costume. It's kind of weird, kind of dumb looking, It's I'm not used to this. He's like, at least in the pocket for my money. I was like, we want to watch Spider-Man.
Now,
Yeah.
there was one thing that we find out a little bit later when the professor brings her a new costume, which is the same as the one she had, but it's made from unstable molecules. I wasn't aware that was technology that just anybody had access to.
Yeah, that did sound weird to me because I thought only the Fantastic Four had that.
But then I remembered it's a comic book universe, so maybe. I won't worry about it.
I've always said that. It's like, if you're worried because you're upset because somebody can do this and real life wouldn't be able to do it, it's like, well, there's people flying, there's people sticking on the wall.
No. I'm just saying, you put that in comic book context,
Right?
It's like, where would somebody have access to that doesn't know Reed Richards? So I mean, it's little mind games or things you play when you're in this hobby, and because like I said, in a world where we're supposed to believe that people can fly and punch planets, but couldn't marry a supermodel, Joe Quesada. We can believe anything but that.
Right.
Where does this guy get the unstable molecules?
Well, if it had been in the 2000s, I would have said the dark web, but
that's true. Graphics got a point.
There you go.
That might have
There's
been one
your
of the
out.
patents he sold in FF9.
There's your out right there. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, because speaking of them, yeah, that's where Monica goes after sightseeing at the top of the Empire State Building. She goes off to the Baxter Building, hoping to speak with Reed Richards about her energy condition, and she is met by the Thing, and there's this little exchange where I guess she calls herself Captain Marvel. She introduces herself as Captain Marvel, and the Thing's like, Captain Marvel, we just buried him not too long ago.
In the backyard.
Not unless you came back from the dead by way of Denmark.
There you go. By way of Denmark. That's it. Yeah, by way of Denmark.
Do you guys get that reference?
I don't get that.
I know.
Okay. So. 40 plus years ago, that was the country that was known for sex change operations. That was basically the only place you could get one.
Oh, yeah. That makes
Somebody
a lot
watched
of
the Christine Jorgensen movie.
That's funny. That's a lot. That's pretty good. I like that.
And that's why you have 60-year-olds around for knowledge like that.
For knowledge.
Well, it is true because that was the culture. All the references were in the past. Just like today's stuff is 40 years ago they pull out stuff. So it's that's how society works.
Yeah.
And like I'm surprised that people still listen to anything from the 40s or the 20s because you'd think like that would have just died off. You're like, oh, old stuff. I want the new stuff. That's the mentality of kids these days.
The basic ideas are the same. It's the language and the peripherals that change.
The slang.
But I mean, at our core, there's still a lot today that was, prevalent then. I mean, you like if you're listening to music, you still play the instruments. Those instruments then, you play them now. Now they've been tweaked and you play them a little different. I mean, but so that's that's why that's why so many people have a reverence for the past. Also, is because it's
But I meant more like the slang as far as like you use that that they use in the book, like Denmark and all.
Well, that's not slang. That's just topical reference.
Yeah.
A slang would be when they said, "Oh, your mother wears your mother wears combat boots," and then when they redid it in Marvel Tales, it was because one of the insult they used in an old Spider-Man was, "Your cousin likes Lawrence Welk," and then when they redid it in Marvel Tales, was, "Oh, your cousin likes Dukes of Hazzard."
I'm just saying, I feel like Cosmic Boy when you say that. It's like, oh, you're trying to say this. So it's like, yeah, coming back to the past and then trying to like understand what they're saying because their way of saying things is different. That's all she has. Yeah.
But yeah, getting back to it though, yeah, the thing he tells Monica is like, oh, Reed's out of town with Sue. We can put you through the Avengers if you want. They do a bunch of sciencey stuff. So he sends a message to Iron Man, and then Monica's like, hey, did you just send a message to them just now? He's like, yep. So she goes in through the computer system, and kind of like it reminded me of the Atom from the Justice League. He's able to fit through the telephone lines and use that to get over distances real fast.
Mm-hmm.
So she goes through the computer system and comes out in Avengers Mansion, shorting out Iron Man's armor, I think, or at least knocking him for a loop. And Spider-Man he's closely behind because he's wanting to follow, because he's still like, I know I didn't hallucinate that lady. So he's following her from the Empire State Building. He goes to the Baxter Building, he sees the thing, and he's like, oh yeah, you just missed her. She's going to Avengers Mansion. So then Spider-Man's like, okay, well, guess I'm going to Avengers Mansion then.
Well, yeah, I remember he still thinks she's, a villain.
Right, yeah.
Or doesn't know what she.
Doesn't know. Yeah, I think it's more of a he's just curious and doesn't know what she is, if she's good or bad, or
well, I guess he heard enough to think that she's dangerous, but doesn't know that she came.
Well, she punched him.
That she came for help.
That's true.
That was an accident, but
yeah, I know.
Yeah, and it's just like classic misdirection throughout the issue.
Yeah. Well, he shows up at Avengers Mansion. And I thought it was funny because, he's going through the door that's got all these like tentacle things sticking out. I think it's supposed to be like their security system. And he's like, it's no match for me. So he goes inside. At this point, Iron Man has gotten back up and the Wasp is on the scene now. Captain Marvel's energies, they're getting like critically, like she's about to blow up. And Spider-Man, there's I think it's either right before, I have to pull it up. It's like, he's trying to help Iron Man come up with a way to keep her from destroying everything. And they end up basically like web cocooning Captain Marvel and Iron Man in the same like little cocoon or mass, I guess. And then Spider-Man makes like a little web shield that's supposed to protect him and the Wasp. It's like, that's some vibranium webbing you got there, Spidey. But he's like thinking to himself, like, what is it? He's like thinking, all I was trying to do was just help her out, and I ended up being like this annoying pain in the butt or something like that. Like I just get in everybody's way.
But
it was like
Spider-Man, Peter Parker and Tony Stark's knowledge, put together, is enough to save, to save her.
Yeah.
And that's not the first time that they've kind of collaborated on things like that. They would do it obviously many times after that.
Yeah.
But just like I said, in less than a year later when he tried to join the team, it was the same thing where he went from getting in the way to, because at that point, because Marvel had this thing called continuity in those days.
What's that?
That was while Tony Stark had developed the alcohol problem that led to Rhodey being the Avengers. So within a year, he's out of the book. And, so he wasn't on the team when Spider-Man tried to join. So
he was there to kind of defend him. Yeah.
Basically, it was a solo, effort. He was the only one there that had the science acumen to get out of that situation.
Yeah, that's something that, like, even this isn't recent, but this was back maybe in the 2010s, like 2011, maybe somewhere around there. Bendis was on New Avengers at the time, and up until then, like Spider-Man, somebody even made a quip like, "Oh yeah, this guy Spider-Man, he's actually like really science savvy." It's like, this is one of his top traits. Like he does the jokes and he does science. Like, how do you guys at Marvel forget this? But yeah, I was actually going to say, yeah, it's like that Avengers story you're talking about. Science has the scientific know-how. I mean, if Iron Man's out, it would make sense to me to have him on a team just for that reason. But yeah, he, what happens, Monica Rambeau, they end up, draining all this critical mass energy so she doesn't blow up, she doesn't hurt anybody. And what happens then is then the Thing shows up. He's like, oh, I guess he's doing a follow-up. He comes behind just to make sure everybody's okay. And he goes into Avengers Mansion, and everyone's there. Cap and Hawkeye and She-Hulk are all there now. It's like a whole big shindig. And Hawkeye's even like, I hope you brought your gambling cards because this is way too tame of a party for Hawkeye. And Spider-Man's there. He's hanging out. And then he's like, oh, wait, I forgot. I'm supposed to meet Harry Osborn and Liz at the station.
Yeah.
And he said it too.
He did.
Harry Osborn.
He says Harry Osborn. Yep. And so he gets there and he's thinking he's all late, but then as he actually has a stroke of good luck for a change because they changed buses and they had a later arrival time. So no one's the wiser. Nobody's wondering what happened to Peter Parker. So, but yeah, really, really good story though. I really enjoyed it. Like I said, it just seemed weird to me at first that it was a Spider-Man book. It seemed like it would be a better fit maybe as an Avengers book, but I mean, yeah, like you were saying though, with spinoffs, you introduce them in
What
another
better way to get the most? Well,
That's
a
true.
couple things. Annuals sold well in those days because they were actually they tended to be special. They whether it was the last part of a story arc or an introduction of a new character, or something like Medusa and Black Bolt's wedding in Fantastic Four Annual 18. They meant something in those days.
Yeah.
And Spider-Man, Amazing Spider-Man being a top seller.
Yeah.
That was the maximum exposure you could get for a new character.
You say, yeah, as soon as you started to say that, it's like, okay, yeah, no, I can see how that would make sense. Spider-Man, I mean, being, even back then, I'm sure, one of the most popular books on the stands.
I mean, it was a rule. I mean, unwritten rule. If a new book within the first 5 issues, more than likely Spider-Man was going to pop up. So this is in reverse.
Right.
Yeah, so we'll get started with Spider-Man, then we don't have to worry about him down the road. But yeah, no, this was, I really enjoyed it. And yeah, as far as annuals go, the thing I like about most annuals, even today, if you find a good one, is they're one-shot stories almost. And this is kind of like that. It's pretty much a one-shot story. You don't have to necessarily have read any amount of issues before or after. It's just a good little self-contained introductory story. So
now,
yeah,
if you enjoyed that, I said that the trade that I had that in, you said you wanted to get that.
Oh yeah, the Avengers
and read it because I said his run is fantastic.
Yeah, no, definitely. Because Roger Stern's run, that's the one. Is that the one? I mean, obviously, that's the one with Monica Rambeau on the team. Okay. Is she leading the team in that run?
Eventually, yes.
Eventually, she does. Okay.
At the same time, Storm was leading the X-Men.
Okay.
Which was actually 30 years before Black women had ever been in comics.
And their 2 premier teams were being wow, that
I know.
My mind is blown.
I mean, I was pretty sure that had happened, but then Heather Antos told me I was wrong. So we just imagined all of this.
I mean, if she said you're wrong,
imagination.
I'm sure she's so disappointed somewhere. Oh, wait a minute. I'm sorry. She's crowdfunding a new laptop.
Hold on. I need to grab a milkshake.
You heard about that, didn't you?
No, I did not hear about that.
Heather Antos' laptop, her work computer blew up.
So she has to crowdfund it.
Yeah, because IDW won't provide her with one, so she's doing commissions.
They're the reason.
Wow. That's actually pretty funny.
Yeah, she has enough power to bring Scott Snyder to heel, but she can't swing a new work computer.
Yeah. By the way, somebody hit my mailbox, so I can get some money dropped in the Ko-Fi band. I'll be dropping here inside.
Saved it. I almost lost it that time, but I saved it. I value my coffee too much. Yeah, no. So like I said, this was a great read. I got it on Comixology. If you don't want to try to track down the, if you just want to read the story for the sake of reading it, it's on Comixology. It's like $1.69 or something like that. Or
if you're rich, $200 on Amazon.
I'm on a budget, so I like my way better.
You know what though? I'd rather pay $200 for all of the awesome Spider-Man books.
I hear that.
Pay $200 for anything that comes out today.
If I
It's
could,
a variant.
if I could get one of those for like Fantastic Four or West Coast Avengers, I would definitely consider doing that for if they had a collection of all of them.
Well, the other alternative is you get these little books here, and they collect and everything.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
yeah, I like those
which
too.
is probably the best idea Marvel's had in a while, because they're basically ramping up the Masterworks production again.
Oh, okay.
Only doing that; those are them only in smaller, digestible size
and more affordably sized.
Right.
Yep.
And I
So
think that's a fantastic idea, because it can.
Yeah.
If people will,
$16.
Yeah.
for 10 issues. I mean, that's
a great
the
deal.
hardcover version. That's $75 now.
Wow.
This is volume 12 of a special limited printing collector's edition featuring the classic arts from available exclusively from at combo shops.
Yeah.
So
I'm about to say I'll probably pick that up on
11 to 20.
Saturday.
Yeah, I would recommend that entire series for you youngins, because that's as cheap as those are ever going to be.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're not interested in spending thousands for the issues at any point, that's the best way to get the stories.
Right on.
Yeah, God, quit showing me that. I used to have 2 copies of that book.
Oh, that is a beautiful. I like.
This
those,
also
those
has
parts,
Kang in here, so those are going to be watching anything to do with the MCU. Read up about Kang.
Have you ever read that issue number 11?
Last night, and I read it like 12 years ago.
Well, Spider-Man, when he makes the wings,
Yes.
Why do you never use that again?
I know.
All the times he's been dropped out of an airplane. There's one where he wraps himself into a ball and bounces off the ground, about breaks himself in half. Why didn't he just make the wings again?
because his name is Spider-Man, not Dragonfly Man.
Well, his name isn't Splato del Gato either.
I mean, would you rather see the human spider or the flying spider?
Oh, flying spiders.
By the way, Glinzer,
I don't like that.
That's a great one. By the way,
that's a good one. That is. I saw that. That made me chuckle. Good one, Glinzer.
And then also, Kang is in this. This is awesome. The next issue.
Right on. Very cool. Yeah, I'll have to check that. I'm going back to my LCS on Saturday for the.
And this is the alternative cover. The other one has the other one, the funky looking one with
Michael Cho.
Michael Cho.
Yeah, I like the other cover. That's the one my shop passes the other one.
Yeah, if they're not reproducing the old covers, I like the idea of just replicating one of the issues.
Yeah, and Michael Cho, because I think his art style does tend to more closely go along with the style in these older issues. But that's just me.
Yeah,
I love that cover too, with all the different possible Avengers behind it. That's awesome.
You're killing me, Smalls.
You're killing me, Smalls.
I can't believe you didn't get rid of these.
Well, like I said, it was either that or lose my house.
Lose the house. Get storage unit. Live in there.
Well, I didn't know Aaron at the time, so I couldn't put 250 long boxes under his bridge.
Then you have to worry about water damage and stuff.
True.
Yeah. So anyway, moving on. This is the Spider-Man retrospective, not the Caps Kooky Quartet retrospective. We might have to do that next week.
Like I said, you can't fail if you're getting these, and then you got this too.
So
now we get out.
Keep them there for the rest of the show.
Yeah, we don't want to see your face. We just want to see the books. So then we have this Amazing Spider-Man. This is number 248. And there's actually 2 stories in here. And so the first one is Spider-Man versus Wrecking Ball. He's got the actual. Of course he does. Because of course he does. He's got the issue there. Yeah. So that one is it's a fun little story. Wrecking Ball is
Thunderball.
Thunderball.
Wrecking Crew.
Wrecking Crew. That's right. Okay. Thunderball.
And that very first issue, I mean, because I read through both, because I didn't know if we're going to read through both or what. Because the Kid Collect is the second story.
Yeah, the Kid is the second part.
The first one is awesome because it has John Romita Sr. inking.
Senior and Junior. And I like on the credits because then there's Mrs. Romita, loving wife and mother.
Yeah, it was inspiration. Yes.
That was funny. I enjoyed that.
Did you notice who the inker was on the annual?
On the annual?
Dad. That was also Dad.
Oh, was it really?
Yes.
Oh, cool.
Oh, yeah, John Romita. Yep. And then there's Virginia Romita, proud wife and mother on the annual.
Because annuals came out in '82. So going back to how old Senior was.
Yeah, and then Jim Shooter said travel
Well,
reservations by
He'd have been
Jim
early
Shooter.
50s at that time.
Okay. Well, I don't. I just said I then because I wasn't sure.
Yeah, because I think he's 90, 91 now.
Is he still
I mean,
alive?
he's the last of the old
Wow.
guard. Well, I think Al Milgram's still alive and John Romita, but that's about
I
it.
thought he kicked the bucket years ago. I never realized he was still around.
He's retired, but yeah.
Yeah, I know. But it's like, get your
Well,
signatures right now.
Okay, I bought the first. In fact, I might even have it here. Let me see if I do.
Underneath this amazing 15.
Well, nothing quite that. Well, I'm gonna knock too much stuff out. Amazing Spider-Man Annual 11. One of the backup stories is John Romita Jr.'s first work as a pro.
Oh,
I bought that new.
wow.
He's 65 now. I mean,
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
That's
mean,
awesome.
That's amazing.
Back then, you look at the art and interior and stuff. Romita, and then having his dad, inking for him, and also Romita was also doing the house style version of Spider-Man. He wasn't trying to do his own version this time. You tell it was slightly different than his dad's, but everybody after Senior, tried to keep the same look because that's what fans were used to. And then it was until like the 90s when they started changing the bigger head, the bigger eyes and stuff.
Well, it was actually late 80s.
Was it late 80s?
McFarlane
I was about to say,
blew
yeah.
all that out of the water. Because Ross Andrew followed Romita and Kane, and I mean the bodies were different, but yeah, the look was essentially the same.
And that's what I liked about that. I mean, I like when you have Spider-Man I love the way Romita Senior drew him. And even Ross Andrew keeping that look going. So it's like the volume 1. I love that. And then not to say I'm knocking Todd McFarlane's. It's just that everyone after that though, we went into volume 2. It just the art was not as good. Although I'll say this, the person I put up drawing Spider-Man is probably just, if not as great as Romita Senior, is Mark Giacchetto.
I'll have to take your word for that because I don't think I've ever seen his Spider-Man.
If you read the Daredevils,
I wasn't reading at that time.
Okay, so Darcy Daredevil that's on right now. You read that one and it has Giacchetto doing the art, and he had a crossover with Spider-Man coming on there, and it was like, oh my gosh, it's like, why don't we have this? If Dan Moore could they get the great artists for Batman, why isn't Spider-Man getting the best artists you have?
I was gonna say, McFarlane was more of his inspiration was Ditko.
Mm-hmm.
So if you look at some of the poses and the way he drew, it was more reminiscent of Ditko. You've got to be kidding me.
I don't know.
Wow. I think it was 7. I think it was. Yeah, I think the Mets were down 7-1 when the 9th started. They just took the lead.
Yeah, Spider-Man was a big Mets fan back in the day.
He was. Well, it depended on who was writing him. If a writer that liked baseball was Peter Parker, was a baseball fan, I remember reading one where he didn't know the difference between a baseball and a football. So just little continuity errors there. That
we're saying they're saying Jim Starlin and Mike Zeck. Yeah, no, they're both 72 years old.
Oh wow.
Sheesh.
Yeah. Shoot.
Yeah, I'm looking at that number for 1977. That's for annual number 11.
But
and it shows for the first story, it shows Don Perlin. The second story, though, is from Romita Jr.
Yeah, it takes place at the Coffee Bean.
Yes.
But before we get too derailed, we should probably cover 248.
Probably should. Yeah.
Hold on, I need to look at my box issues.
That's okay. Yeah. Well, I'll start with the Thunderball issue first, or the Thunderball story, I should say. In this story, I mean, it's a pretty self-contained story. Thunderball has escaped from prison. He's got the magic crowbar that gives him and the Wrecking Crew their super strength and endurance. Spider-Man's like, that's crazy. You have an Asgardian crowbar. What? That's crazy. But
the keep away with the crowbar was hilarious.
Yeah, the keep away. Oh yeah, he like grabs it and he uses a baseball bat to hit a boulder back at Thunderball, which I thought was pretty funny.
because the Thunderbolt. So he said he's like, oh, who would have thought? I only knew it was the Wreckers. I guess what is the guy who was a crowbar? Is it
The
that's
Wrecker.
the Wrecker. The
Wrecker.
Wrecker is normally
So
the crowbar,
if I would have known, I just need to hold on his crowbar and don't need the rest of the gang to have all the powers and stuff. I would have done this years ago. And it's
Right.
and I was like, gee, thanks. You just made everybody irrelevant in the Wrecking Crew.
Yeah, I know all the rest of the crews would be mad at him. But yeah,
No.
Thunderball, he ends up, he and Spider-Man, they're fighting. They're going along this highway where there's already a huge traffic jam, and they end up at a power plant. And Spider-Man, of course, he uses his science knowledge or his engineer knowledge to come up with a way to zap Thunderbolt with all this electricity. And he's feeling pretty good about himself, as he should. I mean, he just stopped the supervillain, and
Well, the guy he rescued, he jumped in the bushes. He's hiding from Thunderball.
yeah.
That guy is dead.
Oh, maybe he might have been. But then what happens is he's feeling good about himself, and then this TV reporter shows up, and he's like, "How does it feel to have caused the greatest traffic jam in the history of Long Island?" Spider-Man's like, "Are you kidding me?" So it's really funny because it just showcases how Spider-Man just gets no respect.
And there's no Jameson in the annual.
No.
Or this first part.
He does get kind of a mention. There's a little wink and a nod to him in the second part, but there's no. I mean, there's really no anybody. There's no Aunt May. There's no Harry Osborn. This is just Spider-Man and Thunderball, pretty much. Like, it's not even in New York. It takes place on on the highway, pretty much. I like the ending though. He's like, he jumps in the back of a pickup truck. He's like, "Home, James," and the driver's like, "What? What are you doing?" But no, really, really fun little story, and something else. I mean, just like I was saying with Captain Marvel, it showcases his scientific know-how. Like, he knows how to use the electric current to take out Thunderbolt.
Well, yeah, he webbed up a wire to the crowbar, so when he went to reach for it, he's like, "Oh."
Yeah, and that's something that I just don't think you find a lot of in the modern day Spider-Man stories, where he uses the science to win.
No, if this were in modern day, he would have beat him within 3 seconds and on to the next villain.
No, if it happened today, he would have been getting his ass kicked, and Black Cat would come save him on her way to a date with her girlfriend.
Well, now, but I'm saying before Beyond and all that crap, years ago. No, because they were writing him. I'll just say real quickly. I was saying in the early 2000s, they were writing him where his villains were basically throwaway characters. Electro, all this stuff. He fought him so many times that I'm done with them. Boom. But then they rebooted him. Yes, you were correct. Now he basically struggles to fight against anybody because they basically depowered him and just made him such an idiot. To the point where he's dependent on other people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, of course he is. Because I said the modern writer does not understand what Spider-Man is all about. They lose because everybody talks about here's what modern writers and modern fans know about Peter Parker. The Parker luck.
The Parker, yep.
Yes.
Yep.
And they don't realize that there's so much more to him than that. That he's one of those guys, he will not quit. If you ever want to see what Spider-Man is all about, issue 229, 230, Nothing Can Stop the Juggernaut. Where where Spider-Man has to fight the Juggernaut, and he of course gets his ass kicked all over both issues, but he will not stop. And even the Juggernaut respects him at the end of the story. And then 269 and 270, where he beats up Firelord, who is the Herald of Galactus.
Yeah.
Just by getting him down and just punching him into unconsciousness. In fact, the cover even says, "Spider-Man, stop. You can't beat Firelord." And he's punching his "Want to bet?" That's it. He doesn't quit. He's smart, he's determined, and he cares. And that's something that really I would argue the last writer that truly got that was Howard Mackey.
There was one issue of that I can think about that in modern times reflects that kind of tenacity that he doesn't quit, and it was, oddly enough, it was the Avengers versus X-Men event that Bendis had a large hand in. There was an issue where he had to go up against Colossus and Magic, who both had Phoenix powers at the time, and he had to hold them off from getting Hope Summers. I forget the exact story, but basically he blocked a cave. He caused a cave in so that Hope and all these other people could get away, and he stayed there by himself to fight these two Phoenix powered mutants. And even though he was getting all beat up and bloodied and knocked, almost killed by a Colossus in them, he that's probably the closest I can think of
before that,
in a
I
modern
remember
comic
before
hits
that was the
same
whole
note.
Maximum Carnage thing. Where it was another thing where he was basically beat to shreds enough. He was basically bullheaded. And I love how they showed it. He was bullheaded. He's like, because Venom's like, if we just kill these people, we can move on and get to the real threat. He's like, no, these are innocent people being controlled. And it said he's the point where his arm was pretty much broken. He had to get help from Felicia, and and Venom did team up with him for a short while. And then he had Firestar come in. I mean, when I think of him never giving up, I think of issue 33 all the time. That's the part.
But look how far back that is.
I know, but I'm just saying that's to me what it started.
But Spider-Man in a fight should be able to take Wolverine. Should be able to take Colossus.
Yes.
I'm trying to think. Like, he did, fairly easily defeat Luke Cage right after Gwen was killed. All three of those would one panel him now with today's writers.
I mean, it's like the concept of what we talk about on the Flash reviews. He should be able to dodge every bullet, every punch, because he has super speed.
Okay.
And the thing with Peter Parker is he has a spider sense. He has early warning. As long as he's paying attention, he can avoid the hits. But today he doesn't even avoid the hits. He just gets hit.
Yeah, right.
One more thing, and then I'll pull myself back onto the track. There's an issue of Marvel Superheroes Secret Wars where Spider-Man takes out Pile Driver with one punch, keeping the Wrecking Crew theme going, and he defeats Titania. That's Spider-Man.
Yeah,
people, underestimate him at your own peril.
Right.
Anyway, on to the kid who collected Spider-Man.
Yeah, it's funny. So we open up and there's Spider-Man. The first page is him on the roof of this little kid's bedroom, and he's like, "Hey Tim, hey, you're awake!" And the little kid's like, he's all excited. He's this nerdy little kid. He's got a Star Wars poster even, which I love. He's like, "Spider-Man, gee, I hope I'm awake. I hope it's not a dream." And we see this newspaper clipping above. It's this guy. He's writing for the Daily Bugle, and he's
Jacob Conover.
And he was a recurring character, so he wasn't created just for this story.
Yep. Yeah, so he's writing this little opinion piece. He's talking about Timothy Harrison, who's this little kid who's, he's like other little kids. He likes the modern music. He likes Star Wars. He's seen them all this many times, but he also collects Spider-Man. And, by collect, he means he gets like all the newspaper clippings and, anything he can find that has Spider-Man's name on it. So like Tim, he's like all excited, and Spider-Man's like lifting up his bed to show off his super strength and everything. And he's doing all these things. He's kind of hanging out. He's asking him questions and answering questions. He's like, "Hey, I want to see your collection. What do you have?" And he's like showing him all these new, like this little kid is like really excited. He gets to meet Spider-Man. And, the little newspaper clippings, they go on, and, just kind of like this little interview that Conover did with Timmy. And so Spider-Man kind of, tells them the story of how he got his powers, how he was bitten by a spider, and, how he does the web shooters. And he's like, "Well, I can't spend all day explaining what goes into it, but I make my own web shooter, and it comes out of this." And he webs them up a little swing, and, Tim's just having the time of his life. He's like, "Hey, yeah, you used to be on TV all the time. What happened?" And of course, Spider-Man goes and, tells him, "Well, I wasn't responsible, and there was a burglar, and I didn't stop him. That burglar went back to kill." He calls him somebody that meant a lot to him, but he's talking about Uncle Ben, of course. And so
I can say my part of this whole story is at the very end where he sits on the wall and kind of collects himself, because the little kid has been diagnosed with leukemia and only has a couple.
Well,
Spoiler.
we're not even close.
Ah,
Spoiler.
Good night, everybody.
Good night. Good night.
Dr. Story Killer there.
No. Before that, I mean, I was getting close to that. I was gonna say though,
Well, I don't want to go on for another 30 minutes talking about the whole entire book with it like play by play.
Going on for 30 minutes, just letting him get back to finishing up.
That's right. Yeah, y'all were talking for 30 minutes about other Spider-Man books that weren't even this one.
Yeah, because remember, in 1 hour and 54 minutes, I will be officially old enough to get away with yelling at the cloud. So let's wrap this up.
So one of the parts that I really did like is like he's going over how he wasn't responsible enough and how his Uncle Ben died, and you can see he's like leaning against the windowsill and he's feeling all remorseful, and the little kid's like, well, geez, do you have to be so hard on yourself? You have to have made up for it by now. And he's like, no, I'm gonna be making it up for just kind of gives you this little glimpse of how he sees himself, which I really like that. But yeah, it gets to the end and Spider-Man's about to leave. He's like tucking him in. The little kid asks, he's like, will you tell me who you really are? And Spider-Man's like, oh, I don't know, man. I don't know. And he's like, I'll never tell another soul for as long as I live.
And he says, my name's Peter Palmer.
No.
I'm Superman.
He takes off. God dog it.
Yeah, mute yourself.
He takes off his mask and he reveals that he's Peter Parker. And if you haven't read the issue, and if you're just tuning in, you didn't hear the last 30 seconds, you're like, oh, wow, he just told this kid his identity. Like, what happens with this kid? Peter Parker, he's like, he's like, well, what is it? Tim's like, oh, you take pictures of yourself and give them to Jameson? He's like, yeah. He's like, oh, I wish I could tell Jameson. He's like, no, you can't. You don't do it, kid.
Well, he goes, I wish I could too, but yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Because I like when the kid says, you've been getting over on the old goat for all these years.
That's right. And Jameson does get, what is it in the newspaper, one of the newspaper clippings. He's like, this little kid idolizes Spider-Man, not that the editor of this paper would ever condone, or something to that effect.
Well, he goes, and I hope the editor of the paper, lets this story go through or whatever. It's
okay. Yeah, something like that. Jameson gets like, you could get a little taste of Jameson.
Well, you also realize that if you've read enough Spider-Man, if Conover told Jameson why he was doing the story, Jameson would absolutely sign off on it, because there are plenty of instances that he's a good man with a blind spot for Spider-Man. But as we find out why this article is being written, Jonah would absolutely be okay with this.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely, yeah. Especially he puts the mask back on. He leaps out the window. He's swinging away. He lands on the wall that's outside of this house, and then the focus goes off of Spider-Man and it goes onto the home, which is Slocum Brewer Cancer Clinic. And then we see the last little newspaper clipping. Conover's ending the article, and he's like, Timmy has leukemia. The doctor says he has a few weeks left to live. And that's where they're like, oh, that's where the waterworks start.
You know how good this story is.
So good.
You absolutely know how this story ends.
Yeah.
2 pages in.
Yeah, he's not gonna.
And it doesn't matter. It's like trying to hit Mariano Rivera. You know the cutter's coming. You can't hit it. You know this. You know what's coming, and you still like get goosebumps and
Yeah.
I mean, I felt it again today. I've read the story, I don't know how many times.
I've never read the entire story, but I have seen just like the highlights of it, and not like maybe a screenshot or two on Twitter or wherever.
Is that the first time you've read this all the way through?
The first time I've read either of these stories all the way through.
Wow.
Oh, did you notice something that both stories had?
Spider-Man making jokes.
The little kid, the Spider-Man had to prove that he was Spider-Man. He had to do the first story to get the quarter from that kid.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Joke.
Yeah, on the Empire State Building. Yeah,
Yeah.
he's got to prove that he's Spider-Man. Yeah. Oh, you're right. That is funny. I didn't think about that.
I didn't think of that until just now, but
Same here.
That's neat. That's awesome. Yeah, but no, and then once I was reading, like I think halfway through this one, I think I realized, oh wait, this is that story.
MK, I figured you'd like that analogy.
But yeah, this is, like I said, it's a tearjerker of a story, really. I mean, and the fact that it's only half the length of a normal comic book story too, because it's only the second story of a book. So the fact that you're able to get that big of an emotional punch through a half length story is something.
So,
It's great.
so Vank, unless you're double parked, I thought you would take a few minutes to talk about how much better Spider-Man stories were then compared to now. And I'm not just talking about.
Well, I gotta go move my car now.
Well, you're like, Zach's taking 2 minutes to finish the story. I'm going to spoil it.
I know, because I want to talk about. I mean,
Frank, man. No, definitely. I even, as I was reading these two issues, I actually came up with.
I was just shocked he didn't have an iPad. It was just like flipping through the pages for you.
Well, not on the screen, but I was doing it in front of, just kind of going through. But yeah, no, I even caught several differences between these two books and then what you see a lot of, I guess, in modern Spider-Man. But go ahead, Binkman.
Well, I was just gonna say that you look at the editors back then. This is for the Kid Who Likes Spider-Man was Bob Natal. I know he's done some other stuff. I think he's edited a few books for Marvel. They kept changing editors, but the one thing that all editors had in common is that they actually were editors. They actually were held to basically, if you're going to write a story, it has to be in the continuity, unless you're writing Roger Stern with the story. The Kid Who Likes Spider-Man, that takes place outside of the current continuity. But like I said, they allowed certain stories to go through, and certain stories were not allowed to go because
that could have taken place, the night after he fought
Thunderball. I'm just saying that's why this went through, because with sentimental value of this, and like I said, some people might look at this like, I want Spider-Man to be in action. Well, this is kind of hokey. No, this actually shows the other side of the character you don't really see.
The humanized side of the character, yeah.
And you'll never see a story like this written again where Spider-Man being nice, helping out people, because they don't want you to like Spider-Man. The only Spider-Man they want you to like is Miles right now. The problem is that Miles is being written so badly that I actually liked Miles as a character when he was Ultimate Spider-Man in the Ultimate Universe. But ever since he's come to the main universe, and I think Al Ewing was writing him for a while.
Wouldn't surprise me.
I mean, it's just the character just became a joke. It's like
the problem with characters with potential like a Miles Morales or any of the other second generation characters that Marvel has created in the last 10 years. They feel like it should be enough that they simply exist.
Mm-hmm.
There shouldn't need to be anything more to Miles or Kamala or America or Amadeus or Laura, even though Laura goes back 15
Laura
years
goes back
prior
a ways.
Well,
yeah.
true, especially
and
Miles.
So does Amadeus Cho. He was in the Bruce Jones Hulk.
Right.
And then he was in, he was Hercules' sidekick in a fantastic, incredible Hercules series. Mm-hmm. But the way they're presented now, or Riri Williams, them simply existing should be all you need. And that's why they've never caught on with the older generation, which is fine with Marvel because they would just assume we go away anyway. Mm-hmm. But it's stories like the two we covered tonight, which is why if you tune into Graphic Man on Wednesday night, you see anywhere from 6 to 10 people who have thrown in the towel. And everybody there loves the hobby every bit as much, if not more, than anybody participating in it on a week-to-week basis. But there's nothing left for people that like stories like we covered tonight.
I feel like everybody on the fossils can only afford one towel because they spend all their money on the books.
Oh my God! Last night we're, Shannon's last round. We kind of got into like a Neil Adams tribute. Like my second round. Was Neil Adams books. He pulls out 251, the Joker 5 cards. 232, Detective 400. It was like, God, I'm thinking, I said, so this is what it looks like if you didn't have to sell your collection, because I had all those. It's like, God.
Right?
Flashbacks.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, like but yeah, things I got from this, like just comparing to what I saw, I didn't read the new Spider-Man #1. I just saw a bunch of screenshots of what goes on. Like Spider-Man has a bad attitude because everyone else is giving him an attitude. Like Spider-Man got disrespect a lot back in the these older runs. Like even when like in the Thunderball story where people are angry at him for causing a traffic jam, even though he just stopped a dangerous criminal. He made a quip or two about it, and then he just brushed it off, and he jumped in the back of a truck and went home. It's like stuff didn't usually stay on his mind for very long.
Well, the other thing is too is a really big difference. It's just really, really ruined Spider-Man is the fact that I feel, and I still say it, ever since Civil War, they had him take his mask off. It's just
they
they
back.
lost the idea of him writing his character. I mean, it was cool to kill Aunt May again, for the third.
But they put the genie back in the bottle.
Yeah,
yeah,
that's something I'm over
Glinzer had something here. During this Straczynski run, Ezekiel, a character I despise, told Peter that Spider chose you. Bullshit. I said, Joe Chill was not part of a vast conspiracy.
That was the other series, right?
Right, to take down the Waynes.
Mm-hmm.
It was a random mugging that turned into murder.
Yeah.
The Spider, it was Peter Parker's happened to be there. It could have been anybody else. That's what makes these origins so great.
Yeah.
Was their randomness. And I don't know if it was Straczynski's idea or editorial, adding some grand, it was written in the stars and in the caves like a Scott Snyder Batman story. No, as I said, that's you take away. It fundamentally changes why that character exists. There's two things you don't mess with: the random spider bite and the decision he made not to stop the burglar.
Right.
Those are the two instances that formed who Peter Parker is.
I think it also kills a lot of just like when you're a kid and you're reading that and you're like, oh, this random thing happened to him, something random, like it ruins the imagination bit kind of, because you're like, if you find out down the road, like in the Straczynski run, like, oh, it was fate. It's like, oh, so it could happen to anybody. Oh, that's kind of a letdown.
Yeah. John Byrne tried to add all kinds of stuff to the mythos in Spider-Man Chapter 1. Fans said, John, we love you, this sucks.
Well, the other thing I kind of didn't like, I mean, I'll get flack for this, is the whole Wild West being able to recreate the accident that happened to Barry. Gives up powers.
Yeah, I don't know about that, but
that was isn't that how Kid Flash has powers, or was it a retcon?
No, Kid Flash, he gets his powers by trying to recreate and having the same chemicals present and get struck by lightning.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, Barry's a scientist. I think it makes a little bit more sense. I'm a little bit more lenient when it comes to Wally.
I think the person who decided to do the new Green Lantern girl, let's take that idea, but let's hack a Green Lantern ring.
Yeah.
But getting back to Spider-Man.
Yes.
Yes.
Now he says yes after all these times.
I'm old and slow. What do you want?
Like the Rhino.
Oh.
No.
I'm a delicate flower.
Zach, we've read a lot of the Spider-Man books on this channel here.
Yes. Yes, we
so
have.
You being a person who's never really read this particular character's books before, you're learning a lot more about it. Of course, you've watched the movies, but when you read the actual books, the back issues from the Stan Lee and going up and even going into the Roger Stern stuff, you're seeing like, wow, this character actually is a lot cooler than I thought he was, because I know a lot of people who've never read them before and they've only seen the movies like, oh, this is great. And then when you actually see something, sometimes they don't like it, the original stuff. They prefer the normal. So I understand you have much more appreciation of this character. Does your opinion change about him?
Yeah, I mean, reading through especially the early issues, it does flesh out the character. I mean, some of the stuff I already knew. Like, okay, he's a genius science kid. He, has his bullies and everything. Yeah, darn you geniuses. Reading some of the early issues, it comes like because when I would see the movies, like the Tobey Maguire one, which was the first one I ever saw, and then I go back and I read the earlier comics. Peter Parker does kind of come across as kind of a jerk to his bullies, which in the movies they tend not to do so much.
So let's say real quick.
Oh,
I didn't realize I was right when I said that. I said that the Kid Who Collected Spider-Man could have taken place right after the Thunderball story. It did.
Oh,
Marania's pointing that out. So,
okay.
Thank you for keeping us on the straight and narrow.
So he goes straight from Thunderball to making a little kid's Make-A-Wish dream come true.
There you go.
There you go. All right, cool.
Please
but
continue.
I think, outside of that, like it is cool, seeing how he fights. Like I was saying, seeing how he uses science, he uses his brain to win a bunch of the fights. Like, sounds silly, but his first fight with the Sandman, he uses a vacuum cleaner. I think it's genius. Why just have him beat sand and when you can I love that stuff. And
the genius of seeing him creating his web shooters,
seeing him make that seeing not only the Spider-Man side. Of course, the Spider-Man side is great, and it's great to see him use the quips and the witty jokes and everything. But seeing also the human side of him, which I feel like sometimes it's more interesting in the comics than it is in the movies. When I see stuff like that in the movies, it almost feels like I'm watching a CW show for a little bit. But when you do it long term in the comics like that, it does invest you in the character, like with any other character.
My favorite parts of Spider-Man is not even the fighting; it's just him designing the wrist shooter, tweaking it, inserting the new pellets, or fluid cartridges in there.
Yeah.
Or when he gets home, he's like, "Quiet, May's downstairs." He's sewing his costume. It's like, it sucks having secret identity.
But the big thing is, and kind of going back to what Breen was saying, talking about the Parker luck, you do get a lot more of that. It's a hard knock life vibe with Peter Parker in the comics than you do in the movie. Because in the movies, things always seem to work out in the end. He gets to date Gwen Stacy at the end of Amazing Spider-Man, or he gets to date Mary Jane at the end of Spider-Man 2. So on and so on. The only one, that's one way when he's not like No Way Home, because at the end of No Way Home, he does kind of lose everything that he had at the beginning of the movie. It does fit more with Peter Parker, getting his lumps in. But yeah, it has been fun reading through them for the first time.
So, is he gonna any higher on your favorite characters? Did you move the spots at all? I know you're a good guy, aren't you? You're like the good guy.
I am more of the team fan when it comes to comics. I like Avengers, Fantastic Four, Justice League, even the books where Spider-Man's on the new Avengers. I do tend to like those. But yeah, recently I have been getting more into the solo hero books. Like I'm reading Flash right now. I've read through a bunch of Spider-Man, Superman. We've been talking about for the last few weeks. So yeah, he is. I think as far as solo heroes go, he is moving up in my list. Definitely I'm a lot more open to reading these back issue stories now versus when I first started reading comics.
Well, honestly, if you've only been into comics during the 21st century and haven't gone back, you probably do look at Spider-Man and go, well, what's the big deal? And I'm not being glib. Because he's been so poorly written for the large chunks of the 21st century.
Mm-hmm.
Again, they always reference the Parker luck, but it's the perseverance.
Yeah.
That look at all of the victories he's had, and though he's had so many personal tragedies, losing friends and lovers, he's been involved romantically with Gwen, Mary Jane, Felicia Hardy. There have been others. Betty, more of a high school crush, but he's done very well because so I point out, guess, hey, it took John Romita, but he's a good-looking guy.
Yeah,
and he's smart, and he's nice, and he's a good person. So
right,
he may have never had real money, because I don't acknowledge that part of the slot run.
Parker Industries,
but
he becomes the new Iron Man, basically.
I was even thinking that when you say like Parker and money, I'm thinking like Civil War. He's like, don't worry, we got money. He's like, thank you.
Okay. Well, yeah, that is the other thing, though. You are right, because a bunch of those older stories, he does have a lot more. He could actually die. This could actually be like the stakes are a lot more like there. What's the one we read it? I think the one where he's like trapped in a water tower, and
It's
with Jameson, the one where
33.
yeah,
Oh no, 52.
yeah, the one where
Where the
Kingpin,
Kingpin's gonna drown him.
right, yeah, like that was like okay, you could probably. And of course, now if we read it today, like you said, somebody would probably come in from the outside that would beat up all the thugs and open the door and let them out. Probably Black Cat or Spider Gwen or but yeah, no, a lot of those older comic books, they really do a good job showcasing his tenacity, which I appreciate. So
Yeah, I said I'm glad you liked him. I said that's yeah, I said there's just so many good stories in this era.
mhm.
And it's not even the Spider-Man era. It's kind of considered almost like a holding pattern. The first half of the '80s, because before Mary Jane and Peter's relationship rekindled and led to the marriage.
Mhm.
They tried a supporting cast primarily in Spectacular Spider-Man that really didn't take, at least not to the degree. I mean, they didn't replace Gwen, MJ, Harry, Flash, but yeah, I said, but they're still light years better than what we get today.
Yeah, yeah, oh, definitely, yeah, that's why, and I'll probably be diving into more, like even some of the Spider-Man books that we haven't read on the streams yet. But because I especially want to dig into the McFarlane run, because I actually really like the way McFarlane drew Spider-Man. But yeah,
Yep.
I'm gonna want to do some deep diving.
Do the Amazing Spider-Man McFarlane's, because David Michelini and Tom McFarlane were a heck of a combo. When it was
I like that
McFarlane
art
doing,
design. By the
No,
way, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there, but
no,
I just
so
want to say I really like that art
when
design.
McFarlane took over, when he left to do his own Spider-Man book, you quickly learned the limitations he had as a writer.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Yeah.
I have both of those on the right page.
Yep. This is the Ultimate Guide. I got this a long time ago at Barnes & Noble when they had.
Oh, nice.
Is forward it's by Stan Lee in here too, but it also goes through the years and the characters too. I love the in-depth. So, and if you this is like the Ultimate Guide, as it even says, the Ultimate Guide. They've come out with ones, I guess, after this, but I've always loved this stuff.
What we should read soon?
So,
Spider-Man Annual number 3. It's where the Avengers consider Spider-Man for membership and then decide to approach him. And this is very early in the Marvel Universe. And one of the things Spider-Man says is, what makes you think I want to join up with you guys? And Thor goes, forsooth, 'tis a great honor to be even asked. You varlet, you knave, whatever. Well, anyway, they give him a test. If he can bring the Hulk back to them, they'll let him in.
Ah.
And it's, obviously he doesn't end up joining, but there, as they say, there's more to the story. And I said we could read that because it's got Thor, Iron Man, Captain America, Spider-Man, Hulk.
I need some more Will the Wisp.
Looks like it's had Daredevil in there too.
Yep.
And Hank and Jan.
Yeah.
And Jameson. J. Jonah Jameson's in there.
That's
Probably to try to tell off the Avengers for trying to recruit him.
Yeah, I think someone asks Daredevil if he thinks Spider-Man would be a good fit.
Mm-hmm.
Stephen gives a rundown of the spider females.
All the Spider Women.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that sounds like a fun one. I'd read that one for sure.
Yeah, exactly. Throughout the years, yeah.
We just retrospected Web of Spider-Man 1.
No.
We recorded that Monday.
Oh, nice.
So look
Very
for
cool.
that on the YouTubes in about 10 days.
Look at this, Breen.
Oh yeah, the Juggernaut. That's the one you were talking about.
Yes.
Yeah. Yep.
Awesome.
It's been a while since I read through this. Well, a lot.
Yeah, I've got a bunch of those different encyclopedias. Like I've got one for the Guardians of the Galaxy. I've got one for the Avengers. I haven't read through any of them in a while. Normally, I just get them for art references.
Like I
That's
said,
cool.
this goes all throughout the years. I mean, when I got this, it was really cool.
Yeah.
Because you get characters like I forget about, like Solo.
Oh yeah.
Look at Tombstone. She looks normal. He's not white.
Yeah, he looks boring. I like pale, pasty Tombstone.
I like Jameson Flat Top Tombstone better, though.
Jameson Flat Top.
It goes and it talks about the wedding and everything.
Very
Something
cool.
you'll never get again.
That's another thing that I have developed more of an appreciation for Mary Jane and Gwen Stacy. Because before I read the books, I was just like, they're all right. You know, they weren't up there as far as my list of, leading female characters in a superhero couple. But now after reading and seeing them fleshed out more in the books, it's like, okay, I can understand now how important, like Gwen Stacy, how important she is, and Mary Jane, and how they go from, she goes from being like the girl Aunt May tries to set him up with, and then they're kind of friends, and so now I appreciate them a lot more now.
Now, I don't know why the modern writer is so enamored with Gwen Stacy, because it has nothing to do with the character.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah,
well, it probably has to do with Spider-Gwen.
Right, but I mean, they don't. I mean, none of it has anything to do with, like I said, who she was when she was Spider-Man or when she was Peter Parker's girlfriend.
Oh, right, yeah.
But I don't get the fascination.
Yeah. Well, I definitely now, like back when One More Day happened, like I admit I was one of those guys that read it, and I was like, I just kind of shrugged it off because I wasn't reading Spider-Man at the time, and like I said at the time, I really didn't see the big deal with Mary Jane, because I hadn't been reading Spider-Man books. That's probably the reason why. Now I get it though.
They broke him up at the turn of the century,
Mm-hmm.
and it took like 4 years to get them back together. And I guess Quesada just couldn't stand it, so he wouldn't let it stick.
Now after reading all this stuff with Mary Jane, like I haven't read the wedding issue yet, but yeah, I mean, I kind of feel bad.
After you read the McFarlane or the McFarlane Spider-Man run,
mm-hmm.
you will definitely utter an F Joe Quesada.
Yeah.
Joke Asada.
And I give him credit for resurrecting Marvel in about 2004, 2005,
mm-hmm.
and for the next 5 or 6 years, except for they pretty much did everything right, except for their flagship character, Spider-Man. Mm-hmm. Now you can argue that Captain America got they literally killed him.
Yeah,
but that was part of a phenomenal Ed Brubaker run, so it was so well written that even if the the reason why they did it, but again, I said, but Quesada just absolutely
get that away before Puppetine shows up.
Did not understand Spider-Man, never has, and now it doesn't matter because, like I said, I don't know how much sense it makes, because on the one hand, they keep saying that the comics need to be like the movies.
Mm-hmm.
But 2 generations from now, normies are going to associate Spider-Man with Peter Parker.
Right.
But by that time, Peter Parker may not have been in a comic book for 20 years.
Maybe. We forgot about to talk about his girlfriends, Deborah Whitman.
Well, she was never his girlfriend. That was kind of like a running gag. Something would always come up.
Oh.
and she was a little unbalanced and she kind of thought there was more to it than there was, and it's like there's a a storyline. I think they did it in either Friendly Neighborhood or one of the other books that came out in the early 2000s, where she wrote a tell-all after he revealed his identity.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, really?
Robert Roberts Puppetine does not show up for the retrospects on Thursday. Actually, Puppetine doesn't do anything. We don't do anything with Puppetine on
No, we
Thursdays.
don't.
He Wednesday he'll do the TV show reviews, but Thursday is all humans.
Tuesdays and Thursdays are human days.
That's right. We ended up coming to an agreement with Puppetine. We get Tuesdays and Thursdays, and then he can do whatever he wants the rest of the week.
Well, MJ's organ, she only has one and then she plays that, because the 60s, man. She plays it back then.
Isn't in his alter ego? Is this the night where he hangs out with those Doctor Who nerds?
Might be. He might have hung out with them last night, actually.
That was last night.
Oh.
Yeah.
Tonight was Doctor Strange 2.
Oh, that's right. He went to go see Doctor Strange. That's right. I'm gonna try to go this week.
He wants Strange to turn him into a real boy.
I don't think even Doctor Strange could do that.
No.
Well, Jerry, who would love to have come back and said it was SJW garbage and how much he hated it because he's like that. He loved it.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting. I've been hearing some different things. I'm still gonna give it a try. I'm sure I'll probably like it more than a couple of the other Marvel movies I've seen recently. But I've spoiled parts of it for myself purposefully. So, but then I find out some of the spoilers might not be actually in the movie, so I don't know what to expect really. I've heard it's very full of Sam Raimi goodness. So I'm expecting a Bruce Campbell cameo.
There was some idiot tweeting out that his source was Hollywood Reporter, but he just had the letter, so he didn't have to link it all to it. It was supposed to be a quote from Sam Raimi saying, "Well, it's hard to make a movie when I don't know what the ending is."
Wow. I've heard that there's a lot of cues that he does from his past movies, like his directing style. I heard it's all over. So all I've seen the Raimi movies and I've seen one of the Evil Dead movies. So I'm expecting Bruce Campbell to show up at some point.
It's got America Chavez. What more do you need?
Bruce Campbell with the chainsaw arm.
America Chavez with a chainsaw arm.
Actually, I know from the trailer, I know he does do that thing where he makes a magic chainsaw when he's fighting, Shuma Gorath? They don't call it Shuma Gorath. They call it something else, but the giant tentacle monster. I think he makes
they call it Dr. Octopus.
No, that's not Dr. Octopus. Be quiet.
No, we're getting off topic again. We're talking about Doctor Strange.
Yeah.
But, just like any MCU movie, I go into it knowing the fact it's not going to be comic book accurate. So go with that mind, you should be able to like the movie.
Be able to have some fun.
Really, nor should they be. It's a universe designed for mass appeal.
There you go.
Comics have never, not since the 50s, have they appealed to the kind of demographics that a movie has to reach.
It's appealing to people who will never read the books.
Right. And I said, and that's a lesson that the comics divisions should learn. Yep. And they never have and they never will. And
also, if you're smart, not a huge idiot, you don't kill off Iron Man while he's popular in the MCU, because even when people are coming to read the book, why is Iron Man dead?
Isn't Doctor Strange dead at the moment?
He is.
Yeah, that's
or is he?
No, wait, Doctor Strange isn't dead. She's alive and doing well, sir.
Now, again, I don't believe that they should have total synchronicity between the movies and the comics.
I agree with that.
But if you do a Doctor Strange movie, you should be able to get a Doctor Strange comic with Doctor Strange in it.
What they should do at the end of these movies or previews, be like, like Doctor Strange, check out his these graphic novels.
You know what's funny? For as terrible as the movie it is, Green Lantern actually did that.
See?
At the end of the movie, they put all these different covers of Green Lantern trades that were out.
You should do it. You should give it
a
college try. But the reality is, comic book fans will go to the movies.
Mm-hmm.
If your first exposure to these characters are the live action properties or the video games, 2D is not going to cut it. So you're not going to go back to the comics and go, "Oh man, this is awesome."
A friend of our channel, Skip, told me he's going to see it tonight. And then he's going to see it tomorrow night and possibly Monday.
Wow, 3 times.
I said you were committed because you were spending over $40
to see what?
Doctor Strange.
He's going to go 3 times.
With the kids on Monday, and then he's going to see it tonight for himself, and then he's going to see it tomorrow with somebody else too. Actually, no. What he said he the first time he watches it to enjoy the movie, and then he said he's going to see it tomorrow so he can watch again and see what stuff he missed the first time through. So he likes looking for Easter eggs.
Did he start a new channel called Breaking the Source Wall?
I don't know why.
I don't think so.
Well, he's streaming right now.
Oh yeah, on England Teen Loves Comics. Yeah, I think.
But also on something called Breaking the Source Wall.
Really?
I don't see that. I see England Teen Loves Comics.
Right underneath it, I've got Breaking the Source Wall, same title.
Huh.
I don't know. Oh, he's doing a movie review. He created his own movie channel now.
That's called Breaking the Source Wall. Oh, okay.
Yeah, I guess so. I think he changed Engleton Live over to his movie channel.
Oh, okay.
After years of talking about it, he finally did something. Don't go over there because he's probably gonna give you spoilers.
Yeah,
that's
right.
Go over there if you want spoilers or don't want spoilers. I don't care.
Yeah.
See right here. That's where you should be. But I think we pretty much talked about. I mean, what else is there compared to Spider-Man today? As of back then? Because back then he had a kid. Spoiler, they didn't know that.
Yeah, Mayday Parker.
Mayday, yes. We had our own series for a while. It was great, and then they tried to do Renew Your Vows back in 2015. That was
that was a spinoff series. It was never meant to be an ongoing.
For the people who were pissed at Joe Quesada and still are.
Well,
that was your outlet.
Well, it was never meant to be an ongoing. It was a little tie-in series to go along with Secret Wars. They did a bunch of them. I think the longest one might have been 3 or 4 issues. Oh yeah, there were good ones and there were bad ones. I mean, there were a million of them.
Second series. They brought it back in 2018. They did another series with Jodie Hunter, and it went for like 23 issues or something like that. And
did it really? Okay.
And they basically aged up Anna, so she's the age of what May was in the original Spider-Girl series, and they had her fighting against what looked like a Venom copy of her. So basically stole the ideas from the original series. Instead of just bringing back the actual character people love, they decided to, people like this new character. We go and just totally tried to exploit it, and I just couldn't get into it. I'll listen. I did like the art though. The art was the only thing that was good about the story, but the story now is not good. The other thing is that he said you do like the Parker luck is always brought up.
Mm-hmm.
I know we already talked about that, but yeah, Spider-Man's always an underdog. If he's not an underdog, you're writing him where he's actually not an underdog, like they tried to do.
Yeah,
in the early 2000s.
Yeah, well, they did that right after he got his brain switched back with Doc Ock. He came back and he all of a sudden had Parker Industries. He was the new Tony Stark basically, because Tony Stark I think was dead or unconscious at the time. So Peter Parker kind of stepped in and filled that role. He was globe hopping and everything. It was like, it was not Spider-Man. He had the costume. It was Peter Parker, but it was very much not the same character. He wasn't the down on his luck, always needing a paycheck.
But my point was we always focus on the Parker luck, but we also don't. But what they need to focus back on is actually the coffee bean and what it represented, the cast.
Oh, okay.
I know you're like, you want coffee and Spider-Man every issue?
Okay, Mariko Tamaki.
No.
But no, I agree with you.
Don't have the strong cast. Before he had 2 lives.
Mm-hmm.
The big thing was him being Peter Parker, doing with MJ, doing with Harry, and their
Harry,
problems.
Gwen, even Flash, even his bully had a good strong role.
I will say this: as much as I didn't like Civil War, at least up until Civil War, before he took his mask off, he had a teaching job. He was teaching.
Yeah, he was a teacher. Yeah,
he was friends with Flash.
Mm-hmm. Actually, at the time of this annual, Flash and Peter were best friends.
Oh, really? Okay.
My point is
And that's another thing that modern writers, they defaulted back to, because they probably read a couple of Lee and Ditko issues.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Flash and Peter hate each other. So, of course, more often than not, they're antagonistic now because
Yeah.
I said new writers just can't be bothered to learn the actual history of the
Right.
characters.
Well, there's no
again,
such thing as character growth. You can't grow beyond hating somebody.
I know it's easy for me to say. I mean, I probably know more about Marvel history than anybody writing for Marvel.
Yeah.
And I get that, but there's, but what they could do is consult. Because there are some people out there with the knowledge, but again, they don't want that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah,
MK, yeah, Harry and Peter were best friends, like in the Tobey Maguire film for a time. I mean, they were roommates, certainly in a bunch of the books that we read on the streams.
And like I said, because what allowed Peter and Flash to become best friends was when Harry, when Harry had the mental problems and became the Goblin himself.
Mm-hmm.
He was institutionalized for a while, and while that was going on, Peter and Flash's friendship developed.
Mm-hmm.
And then when Flash came back, when Harry came back, he kind of took up with Liz not long after that. So he was with her, and Peter and Flash Pete was seeing MJ off and on. Flash was seeing like Shashan, the girl he met in Vietnam.
Right.
And they just became best friends and remained best friends for years.
A couple years later, towards the 90s, he was actually seeing Black Cat.
Well, yeah, she started up with Flash to make Peter jealous, but then actually fell for him.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what ended up busting that up, but
wasn't continuity. It's probably somebody just
no. There would have been a plot reason for it. I mean, because Flash definitely had his problems, and
yeah.
He found out that she was trying to using him to get at Peter because she's always like, "Oh, you were trying to talk with Peter all the time." And
but I don't think that was the reason why they stopped.
Did he lose his legs at the time?
No, that was 15
that was later. Okay.
Yes, the cat took him. No.
Well, I was gonna say if he did, maybe she saw him as like a burden or.
It wasn't that. He noticed that she never paid attention to him. If I remember correctly, she was too busy focusing. He's always telling her what to do, and he never listened to him. He just felt like there was a one-sided relationship. And then eventually she did fall for him, but I think it was too late. That's what it was.
Yeah, I honestly, I'm not sure, because 90s Spider-Man, it was, I'm not saying it was bad, but it compared to some of the other eras, I'm not in any big hurry to go back and read 90s Spider-Man.
Well, I said the Clone Saga, to me, as much as people seem to don't like it, it's better than what's being put out in the past 20 years.
I have no problem. It did go too long.
It did.
But here's the thing. When they did it, Ben Reilly was absolutely the real Spider-Man, and Peter was the clone.
Yes.
Because they were determined to do that, but fans just wouldn't have it and bombarded them with complaints, and they had left themselves just enough rope to do it, to switch it back, which they did, because again, back then Marvel actually listened to their readers.
Yeah.
What?
I know. I said, well, guess who wasn't in charge?
Joe Quesada.
Right.
Plus, I've been reading the Ben Reilly Spider-Man. That's the only current Spider-Man that's actually being put out. Is actually Spider-Man. I understand. Look, it's Ben Reilly. It's not Spider-Man.
Yes.
It's more Spider-Man than Peter Parker is these days. And like I said, it's not being written for propaganda and all this stuff. It's a 6-issue little limited miniseries like Peter David was doing with the Hulk, and he also did with Greg Land. He was writing some of the symbiote Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Holy crap! I'm a Spider-Man fan, and I read that today, and I couldn't believe how great that issue is compared. It just made me feel like I'm reading. They're back in the 90s, back in the 80s. He had, the cast he has friends, and just dealing with the struggles and getting over it. And like I said, people always laugh Spider-Side, like, oh, it was a horrible character, and like, looks like a Rob Liefeld character. You know? It might even be a Rob Liefeld character. Now that I think about it, he has the same bulk and physical stuff. I just love the fact that it's out of the freaking continuity or whatever's happening today with Spider-Man, because as being a Spider-Man fan, I hate what they've done to him, starting with Slott, going all the way through. Zdarsky, I'm still anti Jameson, knowing I love the fact that Jameson and them taking pic photos and then him complaining all the time. I understand they had to end sometime, but I'm like, end it when I'm not alive. You can do it 20 years from now. I don't care, you know. And then because the last, I think it was Spencer. Hey, Peter, you could do me a favor. I'm doing the Daily Bugle online now. It's a streaming thing. So if you get paper, they turned it online, the blog or whatever. He's like, Peter, if you create this new, remember they had him create a new suit with cameras on him so they could like watch him. Viewers could subscribe and watch Peter Parker or watch Spider-Man take down villains. I was like, this is so cringy. It's like, no. It's like this is not I like Jameson being a dick.
Well, isn't that the same thing that Booster Gold did in the Blue and Gold series? Like he used his social media to.
Yeah,
I don't know. I think that'd be interesting for a modern day writer. I mean,
they want Peter to be the point where he's so dependent on. He never had a job. He doesn't have a job. He's not making any money. Because everything he's in debt because the whole Superior Spider-Man thing, because of Doc Ock, they found out, and he got his degrees taken away because
right? Yeah, I remember that. Yeah,
Doc Ock had plagiarized, or they made it seem like he plagiarized Doc Ock's speech.
mm-hmm.
Octavius.
Yeah, right.
And so it's just to the point where it's just like I don't want him like working with Jameson to try to make money in a new way like that, and I don't think in this. It just didn't seem like Spider-Man. It just seemed like a superficial thing to do. It is a Booster Gold thing to do.
Yeah, which is not Peter Parker. Yeah, exactly. It's not a Peter Parker.
The suit was atrocious looking. We're getting a question here from Glinzer. Did she ever get over her? You can read that one.
Oh, yeah, where she loved Peter Parker. She loved Spider-Man, not Peter Parker.
Well, when he punched her, Superior Spider-Man.
But by that time, their relationship was over. She eventually came around to understand that they were the same person. She reconciled that between her ears. But
wasn't she dating the Foreigner?
I lost track. That's it. It doesn't matter. It all led up to her being her true self.
She became the kingpin of New York.
And she has become part of the statistically impossible lesbian concentrate.
That's another thing too. I was
universes.
She's
pretty much like she was that back in 2002, I thought, or 2003.
What?
It was the Evil That Men Do story. I think it came out on I remember it was on the DVD with Spider-Man, the Raimi movie when it first came out. That was like the first issue was on the DVD or the CD-ROM of it. It was like a Spider-Man Black Cat story, and she says something about having not had a girlfriend in a really long time, or something like that.
No, that was probably Kevin Smith just trying to be edgy at the time. But
maybe
she had a wife in Spider-Girl in that universe, so she did go on to So I guess she ended up becoming a lesbian later in life.
And that's why the Kyle was written that way.
She got the Alan Scott treatment. Yeah. You're gay in another universe, so they make you gay in the main one.
Yes. Curious, has Marvel ever had a comic decided by the fans like DC did when they voted for Jason Todd to die?
Well, they did the Marvel versus DC miniseries.
Yeah, that was fan votes.
That was a fan vote. You would, Namor versus Aquaman. Vote for who you want to win.
But as far as fans revolting, that's only I can come close that I can think of. Yeah, is that the people complain about the Clone Saga and them changing it. The biggest thing I hated the fact is that they decided to kill off the baby because they were going through her MJ being pregnant, gonna give the birth baby, and then they said, "Oh, that baby didn't make it."
But she didn't die.
No,
Norman took her somewhere.
Yeah.
But they
decided to end it, drop the plot without even trying to retcon or anything like that.
Right.
They just said that. Oh yeah, and it went away from that. I was like, what? I think they relaunched. Didn't they relaunch too? The volume.
Yeah, but like I said, there have been several things that have just kind of dropped by the wayside. There was a issue of the Avengers where they showed these clones of Gwen and the brother,
Yeah.
and they were never referenced again.
Was that
or-
the same clones of her that showed up? There was that. What was it, the Sin Eater story?
Sins past, sins
Since
remembered.
past, yeah, that one, yeah, with Norman Osborn, that was really cringe.
Yeah, and then that's one thing that Nick Spencer did for the
You're right.
fans.
You retconned it. That was great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I said, I'm a fan of the original Spider-Man stuff, and it kills me that I cannot read the new stuff because that's a character, my number one character. If I could drop every other book that's coming out and just read Spider-Man, I would do that, but I can't because they just don't write the character anymore. They put the name on the title and that's it.
Yeah.
It's just disgusting. I mean, pretty soon. I mean, this is saying I just because I like Peter Parker doesn't mean I hate Miles Morales.
Yeah. Oh no, of course not.
And just like a friend of the channel, Angleteen, like it says, who is streaming right now, and we'll watch him. There's only bad writers, not
a bad character.
characters. So, and this has been proven. We saw it with Guinea Hex. You know, that was the character with Megs wrote a good story with that character. I don't think actually probably a bad example, but I mean, writers can write good stories when they they're allowed to these days, or they actually can write. Not saying Megs is a worse person. I don't know why I brought that example up, but I'm just saying there are surprises today too. Mark Waid, the world's finest right now. Holy crap!
Or Job of the Slot on Fantastic Four.
The last time I liked the Mark Waid book was Wally West Flash.
Didn't he write some Justice League, some JLA during the Morrison years?
Mm-hmm.
I think he did Tower of Babel.
I believe you are right.
Yeah. So he does a shockingly number of good writing for being a terrible person. But
Mark Waid was a good writer before Trump.
Yeah.
And now
BT.
Apparently he is again. It's I mean, I had to think about buying that, but then I remembered, unlike Dan Slott, Mark Waid has done some shitty things, but he hasn't done any shitty things to people I know personally.
People yeah, definitely.
Whereas
I don't know why that should make a difference, but
it does. Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, with Slott, it hits a little closer to home.
I mean, Zeb Wells made it personal. He ruined Spider-Man for me, or whatever the hell it is.
Well, maybe one of these days, Jed McKay will get a crack at Spider-Man.
Oh yeah. Also, those who are wondering, Zeb Wells is responsible for I was gonna say Brie Larson. Responsible for, well, yeah, he is kind of responsible for Brie Larson being Captain Marvel. No, Carol Danvers became Captain Marvel. That was Zeb Wells.
Oh, was it? Oh, yeah, that was that Avenging Spider-Man?
Number 9.
Well,
I don't think he created that.
He drew the assignment.
Yeah, he was the guy's like, you do this. That decision probably came from higher up.
Yeah,
but
well, I don't know what else to say other than check out if you love Spider-Man characters, the characters out, whether it's Ben Reilly or Peter Parker, or even I think Kane had his own series for a while. Did he? They had the red and black costume in
maybe a miniseries.
He was in
Texas?
not the Kibblesmith New Warriors, but the Kyle and Dose. It was like a 12-issue miniseries, New Warriors they did back in 2012, maybe 13. Kane was on the team in that one.
Oh no, it wasn't Zeb Wells.
Who was it?
It was Kelly Sue.
Oh,
that makes more sense.
From issue 1.
That makes more sense.
Issue 1 of the new Captain Marvel, so to speak.
Miguel O'Hara, Steve Orlando just came out with the new Spider-Man book, 2099. Did not pick it up because not against anything with Steve Orlando. It's just the fact that I don't really trust new Spider-Man books. DeMatteis, is that the correct pronunciation?
DeMatteis, yeah,
it is tonight.
Right at both ways.
I was a boy.
him writing Ben Riley and going back, like I said, with Peter David, those are the one stories you need to read. Anything that's Peter David's writing right now, anything that is you see David Michelin or Michelin Man, like you like to call him, Rachel Zach.
David Michelin Man.
He's writing Carnage. These guys are still great writers, and they prove it. And they're not writing the new garbage. If anything, they're writing kind of new, great, awesome stuff right now, books right now that take place back in their respective eras. Back when comics books were actually for the fans and not for the Twitters people. Those are stories I could recommend. The Symbiote Crossroads, even though I don't like Greg Land's art, Peter David storytelling, 10 out of 10. You can get awesome Doctor Strange in there too. I said the Maestro series. I think that's Peter David as well. So writing that. These are the writers you got to look for. People had a problem with Claremont coming back and writing some stuff. Maybe so. But I trust a Claremont book. I trust over any of these new people.
Oh God! Compared to the list of failures that are populating the X division now, absolutely.
Yeah.
I'd take Terry Kavanaugh over the parade of idiots writing X books today.
Yep. I think we've been doing a 40-minute goodbye now. We're at 45 now.
We kind of have.
Yeah,
That's what else is
here. So, Zach, out of the books you have, do you have a favorite story from Spider-Man?
Let me think on that. Of the ones we've read, that's actually a good question. If I have a favorite one, I really liked. Recency bias. I really like these two issues. These two stand out a lot. I also like the ones we've read where he teams up with the Human Torch. I really like the friendship between Peter and Johnny. When I first got into comics, actually, when I was reading Fantastic Four books, anytime there was a scene with Human Torch and Spider-Man, I really, really liked that friendship. I kind of wish that they would do more of that in modern comics.
Okay. I'm going to make the call for next week.
Okay.
Avengers 228, 229, and 230.
228, 229, 230.
It's the trial of Henry Pym.
Ooh. I have those too, I think. Or at least I have some.
230 is one of my probably top 10 favorite individual issues of all time.
Cool.
It's Roger Stern. And like I said, I'm not going to say that's going to get out the hanky like the kid who collected Spider-Man, but holy crap, that is it to me. 230 is as good as a comic book gets.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
See, I'm torn because I still love issue 33, but I also love Spectacular Spider-Man 22, the introduction to the Moon Knight.
I do have all of these issues.
And I just love whenever Spider-Man interacting with other heroes. We had, I forgot which issue it was, but we had Luke Cage being hired by John Jameson.
They're good issues.
Spider-Man
123 is a great issue.
Yeah.
But those 3 issues of Avengers, those are better than comic books should be.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, when we talk about it, I hope that you guys feel the same way.
So which Avengers?
228
9
through
and 30.
230.
228?
228, 229, 230.
Okay.
3 issues.
Cool.
MK, are you referring to the recent, the House of X trial of Magneto or the Hellfire, whatever it was,
God.
the most recent one? I hope you're not referring to that. Wasn't there another one? I feel like there was another trial of Magneto.
Well, yeah, I think back in issue 200 of the original series.
I hope that's what he's referring to because I don't go near.
I'm guessing MK's talking about the Teeny Howard debacle recent.
I don't touch that. Not with a.
Oh yeah, now I remember this. I was looking up 228 Egghead.
Egghead.
Yeah,
not
I remember the
man, not the Sonic the Hedgehog. It's the other guy.
Shocker.
Actually, I saw that. I kept thinking of the guy from the Batman '66 show because there was a villain named Egghead that would show up.
Shocker and Beetle joined the group.
Vincent Price.
That's right. It was Vincent Price. Yep.
So,
that sounds good. Yeah.
So next week,
I'll be able to feel like Breen. I can pull them up from and I can show them off. I have actual copies of those.
Right?
He's got them right there.
Right here.
He's got them right. Doggone it.
That's why he recommended, because he just priced them.
Right freaking there. Shoot.
I guarantee you that he was pricing it. He's like, you know what?
No, I didn't. I haven't owned these in a while because I had the trades, but I had issue 230. That's upstairs, and I recently picked up 228 and 229 because now I want to get the actual comics from that era because it's kind of it kind of 80s nostalgic. Because I one thing I've learned in the last several years is just how great the 80s were outside of the obvious ones, the Daredevil, the Thor, the FF, and the X-Men.
Yep.
Yeah, I said whether it's Iron Man or Avengers or Spider-Man, their flagship books were just phenomenal across the board. And I said I said this is part of the Avengers run that is probably my favorite Avengers run in a title that's arguably my favorite of all time. Also,
yeah. I think these were actually on the auction.
I believe so.
230.
Might be where I got it. I got at least one or two of them.
Or it might have been comic book covers we're covering over at Angleton, and where it's called. I guess it's still.
No, I think he had it at the auction.
Yeah, I mean, he could have done them during the cover series too.
Because when he did that, I was glad that I don't have a PayPal account because I'd be snapping all those up and.
Right. Yep.
Right. Yeah.
All right. So 228 and 230.
Yep.
Roger Stern's right at all of those as well.
Sounds good.
And Al Milgrom on pencils.
Yep.
Awesome. Yes. Can't wait to go through them.
All right. That's
Alrighty,
it,
guys.
I guess we just gained another viewer. Always hope the end. I hate the end, but we've been going for almost 2 hours. I hope you guys who just tuned in will rewind the stream and go and watch them in the beginning. We may be boring, but there's some fun parts in here. The stream.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah. If you're a Spider-Man fan, go through, check it out, listen to us while you're working or doing whatever. And like Maranya says, Ko-Fi is in the link.
Yeah.
Or it might be scrolling across the bottom there. There it is.
Right there.
So yeah, definitely. And I think we're doing a comic reading tomorrow. I'm not sure.
It won't be West Coast Avengers, so apparently Trusty is working overtime. So
Trusty's out, yeah.
I guess we'll have to do a web-headed, wall-crawling, skyscraper defacing, hubcap stealing, cake-eating, masked menace, Spider-Man!
Yes!
I take back everything I said. I don't like Spider-Man anymore. He's ruined my life.
And if you missed Palpatine screaming Spider-Man, that'll be tomorrow.
Yeah, probably will be. It probably will be.
Donate to Ko-Fi. They get Zach some respect.
Yeah. Get me above guest status, please. Please help me. But other than that, yeah, now that we're offline, go and check out England Loves Comics if you want to be listening to, I guess, their views on the new Doctor Strange movie.
I'm not sure if they're spoiling it or what. Usually they don't, but I mean the second half, I mean he's done it before, spoiled. So definitely check it out and go watch Doctor Strange and don't listen to what people tell you if it's bad or good.
Yeah, watch it and make up your own mind. And
if you haven't done so, subscribe to this channel. Dear God, we need subscribers. I know we just gained 2 more. This was awesome. I'm always awesome when people subscribe. Yeah, share it out. If you're on social medias, share it out. Or just word of mouth. Show your spouse if you're married, or show your brother, show your cat or your dog. Let them know.
Show your mother.
Go over to Eglantine Live and listen to Dalton use his big words.
He's big words. Hit that right on.
And remember, always bring a drink when Dalton's there. Good night.
And only you can start forest fires.
And drink.
Drink.